Gurudev Kripa Bindudiya Koroe Dase Trina Kekayatina Gurudev Kripa Bindudiya Koroe Dase Trina Kekayatina Gurudev Sakala Sahane Bolo Diya Koro Nijamani Sriyadina Akale Saman Kurite Shakati Dhironata Jaka Jaka Tavito Gaibo Harinama Sukhe Avarada Devata Kabehe no Kripa Lavaye Jano Kripata Hoye Nata Shakti Bure Amiyati Goramure Agmasata Jogyata Vichare Kichu Nahi Pae Tomara Karuna Saro Karuna na hoilo Kandiya Kandiya Pranana Rakhivara Gurudev Kripa Bindudiya Koroe Dase Trina Kekayatina Gurudev morning tune way. Udilo Aduna Purababage Dwijamani Goda Mani Jage Bhakvata Samwa Loya Sake में ढला ढला सोनारंगा चरणे नुपुरा बाजे Bolina bolo revananda bori Niche neda vashe gelo rati Divasa sharira saje Koro bhavana ke ho Deve na bajile jashoda suta chara me pori bela Tapana hule asta Dina gelo boli hoi Vyasta Tabe kino ebe alasa hoi Na bajari doyara Krishna nam surat koreatan Juda bhakati vinodakran Gaura Chandra Bole nidra jao maya isha chira kole. Bajiva boli aishe samsara vitare. Huliaro hile tumi avijara bade. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tomare loiteya Huinu avatara. Ami vina bandhu aro kiya chetomara. Chiya shauri maya nashibaro lage. Hari nama maha mantra lao tumi magi. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vakati Nodakavi Sharani Puriya. Shehari Nama Mantra Loyalo Magiya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Go Premanande Haribo. Nama Shrishtam Manamapi Shakshiputram Atra Sarupam Shirupam Tasya Grajam Urupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Rapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Guru Tam Natosmi He Guru Jnana Gamina Bhando Swananda Data Karanaika Sindo Vrindavana Sinahitavata Rasida Radha Pranaya Prachara He Dina Bando Karanaika Sindo Guru Prasadam Mai Mannamude Laksha Parade Bahupapa Bade Tatpada Padme Stumakishta Krishne Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kapayastadesha Ramayushapi Kridam Ridam Udasvarantaha Yontarva Stalibritam Ashubham Vadhunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Yanakti. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a doleful and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Mando Mui Sabadana Jahara Prasade Bhai Bhavado Viyajai prapti hoy jaha hoy Guru mukha padma vakya chitete ko diya oikya Guru mukha padma vakya chitete ko diya oikya Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschatya Rishatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Om Paramahamsa Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Shtotarastashishimad Abhay Charanara Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Shtotarastashishimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gokopina Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavanam Ki Jai Sri Mayapur Navadiptam Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Sambheta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Srimad Bhagavatam class. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All you, it's all you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. One more row there. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All you, it's all you. Work with me. Little help. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sing. You're going back to Godhead. Be a little joyful. Yeah. One. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Deeply grateful. You're going to need help on the third part. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'm missing a note. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. In the spiritual world, speaking is song. Everyone's singing happiness. Gopi Janna Ballabha, Jaya Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. More cowbell. Cowbell. Hurry. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go pray Manate Haribo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Go pray Manande, Nitai Gaur Hari. What happened to Vaisesika? Somebody bring me Dautat Mahapurusha Krishna. Padamulam Namuchati. Dautat Mahapurusha Krishna. Padamulam Namuchati. Om Namo Bhagavate. Can we do that in some raga? It's so serious. Like, since we're on Hansadwani. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Where's the verses? All we ask for is a few verses, a place to lie down, a little kitchery, popper, and some mango pickle. And to play the Hansadwani in the background, and then we'll read the translations together. Now, Sridhar Swami was a famous Bhagavatam commentator, one that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself deferred to. When Balabhacharya came with a commentary and said, I have a better commentary than Sridhar Swami. He said, he is our Swami, therefore if you're trying to outdo him, you must be a prostitute. He didn't accept. Mahaprabhu's system was to follow the Acharyas very strictly, and anyone who does that, it never wants for anything, because we are the part and parcel of Krishna. We needn't concoct anything or invent our own path. We don't have to follow the path that is already chalked out by the previous Acharyas. The same anomalies come to such a person who follows, but he or she is able to overcome them all by following the footsteps of the Acharyas. So here we have Srila Sridhar Swami from antiquity speaking to us. His Ishtadeva means the object of his worship was Sri Nrsingadev. You'll find throughout his commentaries, he'll pray to Lord Nrsingadev for inspiration in commenting on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And our Jiva Goswami also refers to Srila Sridhar Swami throughout his Bhagavat Sandarbha and follows his commentary very carefully. So this is a verse that Srila Sridhar Swami composed in his plea to Lord Nrsingadev to give him mercy to speak on the Bhagavatam. I worship Lord Nrsingadev, within whose mouth reside the great masters of eloquence, upon whose chest resides the goddess of fortune, and within whose heart resides the divine potency of consciousness. Desiring to purify my sampradaya and being bound by duty, I will briefly comment on the prayers of the personified Vedas to the best of my realization. Inasmuch as Srimad Bhagavatam has already been perfectly honored by my predecessors' explanations, I can only gather together the remnants of what they have honored. And now we have the prayers of Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, who's also an unassailable, as far as the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are concerned, commentator on the Srimad Bhagavatam. He gives his insight throughout his commentaries on what's going on in the pastimes of Krishna and in the philosophy presented by all the great souls who are speaking in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The saintly devotees may laugh at me for becoming a jewel merchant, though I know nothing about precious jewels. But I feel no shame, for at least I may entertain them. Though I have no wisdom, devotion, or detachment, I am still greedy to take the philosopher's stone of the Vedas' prayers from the fortress in which it is being kept. If the wind of indiscretion, my failure to acknowledge my lowly position, threatens to knock me down, then while writing this commentary, I must hold on to the effulgent pillars of the feet of Sridhar Swami, Sanatana Goswami, and Lord Sri Krishna. Repeatedly bowing down to my divine spiritual master and to Lord Sri Krishna, the ocean of mercy, I take shelter of Sri Shukadev Goswami, the protector of the world and its universal eye. And now we'll first hear from Srimad Bhagavatam verse from the second canto, which will be 285. Just go one before this, please. Ravishtakarnarandrena Svanam Bhava Saroruham Dunoti, gotta go up. Dunoti Shamalam Krishna. Shalilasya yatha shara. Pravishta. Thus being entered. Karna Randrina. Through the holes of the ears. Swanam. According to one's liberated position. Bhava. Constitutional relationship. Sara Ruham. The lotus flower. Tunoti. Cleanses. Shamalam. Material qualities. Like lust, anger, avarice, and hankering. Somebody look up avarice. See where it comes from. Krishna. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Salilasya, of the reservoir of waters. Yata, as it were. Sharat, the autumn season. Like Sharat Bihari. Krishna enjoys pastimes in autumn season. The sound incarnation of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. Purport. It is said that a single pure devotee of the Lord can deliver all the fallen souls of the world. Thus one who is actually in the confidence of a pure devotee like Narada or Shukdev Goswami, and thus is empowered by one's spiritual master, as Narada was by Brahmaji, can not only deliver himself from the clutches of Maya, or illusion, but can deliver the whole world by his pure and empowered devotional strength. The comparison to the autumnal rain that falls on muddy reservoirs of water is very appropriate. During the rainy season, all the waters of the rivers become muddy. But in the month of July-August, the autumn season, when there is a slight rainfall, the muddy waters of the rivers all over the world become at once clear. By addition of some chemical, a small reservoir of water, like that of a metropolitan waterworks tank, can be cleared. But by such a tiny effort, it is not possible to clear up all the reservoirs of water like the rivers. A powerful, pure devotee of the Lord, however, can deliver not only his personal self, but also many others in his association. In other words, the cleansing of the polluted heart by other methods, like the culture of empiric knowledge or mystic gymnastics, can simply cleanse one's own heart. But devotional service to the Lord is so powerful that it can cleanse the hearts of the people in general by the devotional service of the pure, empowered devotee. A true representative of the Lord, like Narada, Shukdev Goswami, Lord Chaitanya, the six Goswamis, and later Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, etc., can deliver all people by their empowered devotional service. By sincere efforts to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, one realizes his constitutional relationship with the Lord in the transcendental humor of servitude, friendship, parental affection, or conjugal love. And by such self-realization, one becomes situated at once in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Not only were all the pure devotees like Narada self-realized souls, but they were engaged in preaching work automatically by spiritual impetus, and thus they delivered many poor souls entangled in the material modes. They became so powerful because they sincerely followed the Bhagavatam principles by regular hearing and worshipping. By such actions, the accumulated material lusts, etc., become cleansed by the personal endeavor of the Lord within the heart. The Lord is always within the heart of the living being, and he becomes manifested by one's devotional service. Purification of the heart by culture of knowledge or mystic yoga may be all right for the time being for an individual person, but it is like the cleansing of a small quantity of stagnant water by chemical processes. Such clarification of water may stand for the time being and the sediments settle down, but by a slight agitation everything becomes muddy. The idea is that devotional service to the Lord is the only method of cleansing the heart for good. Whereas other methods may be superficially good for the time being, there is a risk of becoming muddy again due to agitation of the mind. Devotional service to the Lord with specific attention for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and always is the best recommended method for liberation from the clutches of illusion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Karnarandrena Svanabhavam Saruruham Tunati Shamalam Krishna Salilasya Yata Sharad. The translation again, please. The sound incarnation altogether of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, enters into the heart of a self-realized devotee, sits on the lotus flower of his loving relationship, and thus cleanses the dust of material association, such as lust, anger, and hankering. Thus it acts like autumnal rains upon pools of muddy water. Isn't that a beautiful verse? Say yes. Yes. Yeah, it's very beautiful. That's good. So, pravishta karna means that the sound enters into the ear. Karna means ear. And we hear this in various verses, how it's a medicinal process, a hearing transcendental sound vibration. Satam prasangam amavir yasam bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha. Again, Kapiladeva has mentioned this in his teachings to his mother, in which he says that there's a kind of medicine that you can take, and you get that in the association of satam. Satam means those who are sincere about worshiping Krishna. They may not be perfect, but they're sincere. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, api chet sudaracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadhur evas himantavya samyag vyavasito hisa. That those whose motivation is to do pure devotional service, they're to be considered saintly, even if it appears as if they are, from time to time, affected by worldliness. In fact, in the 26 qualities of a pure devotee, there are 25 qualities that can be discounted, and one still considered a pure devotee if one has one quality out of 26. That's not bad. If you take a test and it's like, you got 1 out of 26. Congratulations. And that is that the sentiment of the devotee is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that my goal of life is to serve him in uninterrupted, unmotivated service. And if one has that, then it makes up for all the others, because yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatiya kinchana sarvar gunas tatra samasate sura harava bhakta sukuto mahadguna manoratina satita vato bihi. As mentioned in the 5th canto, the overture of 5.18.12 from the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's, if one's engaged in devotional service, then it's to be assumed that one is becoming purified, that one will develop the good qualities of the devas, or it means that one develops such good qualities that the devas want to come and live with such a person. And this is achieved simply by performing the ninefold process of devotional service, processes of devotional service. And then the satam, prasangam, this is a great association, mama virya sambido, bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kata. So from the karna, or the ear, then the sound vibration of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the topic that the devotees are absorbed in, enters within the heart, Rit Karna Rasayana Kata, and it acts as medicine, Rasayana. Don't you like tonics? I love them. If somebody says, just take this every day, everything will be fine. If Ayurvedic, they give you a little goop in a can, and it's just like, take a spoonful of this with some hot milk and you're all set. It'll balance all the doshas within the body. And so there's the same mention here, Rasayana Kata. The sound vibration from the discussion of the devotees, it acts like that tonic. And it goes in the ear, and then it enters the heart, and then one's life changes. How does it change? It goes from Pavarga to apavarga. So Pavarga means the material world, which is pa, ba, and ma. And that means that everyone's obligated to work hard. You have to break stones here in this material world because of past debts. You're born and parents are waiting. And they say, welcome to the world, little schnicky. We have a trust fund for you to go to college so you can work hard and pay off your student loan. We all have a student loan left over from last lifetime. And you have to pay it off. You got to work hard. You got him working late, as they say in the old song. It's the summertime blues. So this is pa. And it says, how hard do you have to work? Pa. Pa means finial. Finial is the foam that comes from the mouth of a farm animal when he's pulling on a cart. Bulls like to pull carts. They like to be engaged. They don't want to just sit around because they have all these muscles and they like to pull something and feel like they're useful. But sometimes when they're pulling something very heavy, then foam comes out of their mouth. This is finial, or pa. So the shastra very unforgivingly says, this is you working hard. Pa, you work hard, and you work so hard, foam comes from your mouth. Then ba and pa means that whatever you do, it's going to fail. This is the your self-help motivation tape for the day. Fail in what sense? In the sense that in the material world, everything gets recycled. One person rises to a position. Aruya krishchena parampadam tata patantyato nadrita yushmadangraya. The demigods praying to Lord Krishna in the womb say that Krishna, everyone say. That means really hard work. Sounds like it too. Like, what have you been doing today? Krishna. Aruya Krishna Parampadam Tada. People work very hard to become liberated. One of the ways people have in mind to get liberated is to plump up, more than plump, to blow up their 401k. If my 401k gets big enough, I'll be liberated from all this pa, and ba. I'll just cruise. But Satyadev Prabhu told me one day, because he's the perfect pessimist about the material world. He was a paramedic for 20 years. And he said, even if you make money in the material world, is this too negative for morning class? Is everyone okay? Okay. Even if you get wealth in the material world, he said, you have to spend it all later. When you think you're going to be liberated and retired, you have to spend it all on medical bills. And the way the system works is, unless you can pay your medical insurance, then you have to spend your own wealth in order to pay for your bills. It's only when you're completely broke does the government come in and say, okay, we'll help you now. So pa means that you work very hard, ba, and then there's a way in which it all somehow or other, one way or another, becomes eroded. And then ma means mrityu or death. So you have to leave it all behind anyway. So apavarga means it reverses that trend. There's a way in which one actually becomes liberated from the obligations here in the material world and the hard work. And it's not that those who are devotees don't want to work hard or don't work hard, but it is fruitful in the sense that they're working for Krishna. And whatever investments they're making in time, energy, and so forth is going to their eternal credit. So this is a reversal that takes place when the heart changes and I'm no longer motivated to embrace the so-called happiness of the material world. And again, it doesn't mean that a person who is on this path doesn't enjoy. No, a person enjoys amazing relationships and the aesthetics that are pleasing to all the senses. But because there's no motivation for coveting the material resources, they're all being used in Krishna's service, the person is a liberated soul. Ramanya karmani sangam tyakva karotiya lipitena sapapena padma patram ivambasa. Brahmanyadaya karmani sangam tyakva karotisa. So the person has given up the staking a claim in the material world that this is mine and has surrendered the results to Krishna and works under Krishna's protection. So this is apavarga. And so Satam prasangamam avirya sambido bhavanti hritkaran rasayana kata tajjoshanad ashu apavarga vartmani. And it happens very quickly. And it could happen in this lifetime. Tajjoshanad ashu apavarga vartmani shradaratir bhaktir anukramashati, which means that there's a progressive increase. There's an increase. Forget the progressive, just scratch it off. There's an increase in the faith of the devotee in the heart. Shraddha means that one becomes more and more convinced by the evidence in his or her life that by performing devotional service, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, the association of devotees doing devotional service, that my life is becoming complete in all ways. Shraddha ratir. And rati means something very special, that there's a sense of deep attachment or love for Krishna that awakens. Just as I have love for so many people and things, that's from a song, right? People and things in this world, that all becomes transferred to Krishna, if you transfer that to Krishna, it means that the intensity of your love for all other people and things increases also. Just as much as if you eat food and you put it in your mouth, then all the limbs become naturally invigorated because you put the food in the right place. Ratir anukramishati, bhaktir. And bhakti means the highest level of consciousness, which is to be fully absorbed in Krishna. So again, in this verse, we find that Krishna incarnates. Krishna swadamo pakate dharma ganadi bisaha kalo nashta darshamesha pura narko danodita. There's a way in which he comes as an incarnation in this age as Srimad Bhagavatam. Just after Krishna apparently left for his own abode, actually he never leaves because he's all-pervading, he only appears as fire appears from wood. It's like, where'd that come from? It's like, it's in there. So when he appeared to leave, he performed his leela of leaving the world for the devotees then to go on worshiping him through his instructions. And he demonstratively appeared in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the claim of the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Krishna swadamo pakate dharma ganadi bisaha. That the Bhagavatam appeared just like the sun. Just after Lord Krishna departed to his own abode, the Bhagavatam appeared to give light to everybody. And one can derive all the benefits of direct association with Krishna from hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. This was by design. Anarto pasanam sakshad bhakti yoga madhoksaje lokasya ajanato vidvams chakre sattvata samhitam. As mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the chapter Son of Drona Punished. It's chapter 9, 8. 9, 8, 7. 8 is Kunti's prayers. So 7 is Son of Drona Punished, and Narto pasanam sakshad bhakti yoga madhoksaje lokasya means all the people of the world. Ajanato, they didn't know about this. They were unaware that there was a real chance at attaining perfection in this lifetime, nor were they aware that there's Krishna, a personality of Godhead. In fact, most of the evidence that people produce by their own speculation is that there isn't a personality of Godhead. Those who are spiritual present a conclusion that's impersonal. They say there is a God, but let's not go into the personal stuff because that's starting to sound material to me. That's ajanato. They don't know the science. And then other people become cynical. So atheism is a cynical reaction. It's not a well thought out reaction. It's out of cynicism. If anybody becomes cynical, then they react in an emotional way because this idea that there is no God is illogical. Because if you make that claim on YouTube, then you become a fool's fool. Because you just contradicted yourself. If you say there is no God, then you must be God. Because only somebody who knows everything, who's omniscient, could make such a claim. Now you could be honest and say that I'm an agnostic. Agnostic, the word Gnostic, which this used to be a Gnostic church, by the way, it comes from the word Gyan. And that's why in English it's spelled so funny. K-N-O-W spells no. So J-N-A, Nya, Gyan, and no are cognate. And Gnostic means somebody who knows something, and agnostic means I just don't know. That's a more honest position. And lokasya ajanato vidvams chakre sattvata samhita, Krishna arranged through his empowered representative Srila Vyasadeva to present the Srimad Bhagavatam to the world. It came by revelation because Srila Vyasadeva had performed a Herculean service to compile the Vedas, the Puranas. He's a compiler, he's an editor. He puts it all together and presents it for the benefit of people in the world. But his guru came one day and They sat down. His guru was slightly smiling. He noticed that his disciple Srila Vyasadeva was in anxiety. He said, "Do you know why you're in anxiety?" He said, "Yeah, I feel like I haven't done my duty properly." And Narada said, "That's correct, you blew it. Everything you wrote so far, not very good." You read the Mahabharata, and you'll see the endeavor is to go back to heaven. He said, "What is this? What are you teaching people? What kind of thing are you teaching people in these Vedic rituals to counteract sinful activities by performing some other material ritual? This is all entangling them more, and it's jagupsitam, it's abominable." He said, "Tell them what is the real point of life, that by which, hearing it, they'll become relieved of the burden of material existence." As this verse says, pravishtakarna ranrena swanam bhavam saroruham, that Krishna will then appear in their hearts. He's already there, but because the heart becomes a filthy place, Krishna won't sit there and manifest himself. So then Srila Vyasadeva went to his ashrama, and it was a place called Samyaprash. Samyaprash is a place where there's no modes of material nature. It's a beautiful hermitage surrounded by berry trees. Would you like to have one of those? A place where there's no modes of nature? Good place for japa. He went there, and by the empowerment of his spiritual master, he sat in trance of meditation on the Supreme, and he envisioned the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then when he came out of his samadhi, he wrote them all down, which is what is called samadhi bhashya. Out of his meditation, his deep absorption, then he spoke. And it's those words, anarto pasanam shakshad bhakti yoga madhoksaje lokasya ajanato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. He, for the benefit of the lokasya, all the people in the world, ajanato, who were ignorant or cynical, he had given him the Srimad Bhagavatam. So by hearing this, as we hear in today's verse, heart will become cleansed. Dhunati shamalam Krishna. There's a way that in our homes, you might notice they become overrun with clutter. You didn't actually do much, you just did. If you start a website and you just leave it, you don't go visit it, after a year, it'll be overrun with who knows what. All kinds of bots will attack it and throw in garbage. And if you don't take time to cleanse your heart every day, then there are bots here in the material world that will throw garbage into your heart. And it becomes overcrowded with garbage. So what's the system? As I mentioned this morning, it's twofold. We have to make a conscious endeavor to remove this. Now that may sound contradictory, because we said in this verse, just hear Srimad Bhagavatam, everything will happen automatically. Krishna will cleanse the heart. But some people recite Srimad Bhagavatam and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, but their hearts don't become cleansed. Because the intention of the speaker and the intention of the listener is not to purify their hearts. It's to enjoy some sense of aesthetic spiritualism. But their ultimate goal of the speaker is to make some money. And we find that sometimes people set up a pandal and then they do what's called Bhagavat Sapta, where they'll, in a very artistic way, speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. And you can hear it from Govardhan Hill, where we stay at the ashram when they set up. They have all the ragas. They have so many verses and pastimes. And sometimes people come and tears will come from their eyes when they're listening. But don't go backstage, because the speaker sometimes is back there smoking a bidi. Bidi's a kind of a funky little cigarette in India. And their intention really is just, it's a gig. You know what a gig is? They're just doing a show. They're not trying to purify their hearts or the hearts of anybody else. So, Avaishnava Mahon Girnam Putam Harikatamritam. Sanatana Goswami says, Vaishnava Mukund Girnam Putam Harikatamritam. Don't listen to those whose motivation isn't pure, even if it's Srimad Bhagavatam. Because he says, Sarpo Chista Yatapaya. It's like if you leave some milk out. I never knew that snakes like milk, but I heard Prabhupada say it the other day. If you leave a little glass of milk out, and then at night a snake comes and tastes a little bit from your glass. Can you imagine that? He comes in, takes a little sip of your milk, and then he slithers off, and then you wake up unwittingly, and then you drink from that glass. A little touch of poison comes into your system. It's like, why do my joints don't work anymore? And you become affected by the poison. So, sarpochista yatapaya, he said just like that if the speaker isn't pure and the listeners aren't pure, their intention isn't to become devotees and to purify themselves, then the effect will be the opposite. So one has to hear in the association of satam, of those who are sincere about going back home, back to Godhead. And if one hears that, then Dunoti Samalam Krishna. Dunoti is Krishna's work for those who are sincere. Tesham satata yuktanam tadami buddhi yogam tam. This verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam is something that gives great solace to all the devotees who are sincere. Is that, as Krishna says, if you're sincere, then I'll help you from within the heart. So a way that we can perform devotional service that is full of taste, even if we're beginners, is to find our sincerity and ask Krishna, please remove the anarthas from my heart. To have the wherewithal to do that is a very advanced stage of devotional service, actually, an evolution that may have taken place over many lifetimes. Bahunam jamanamante gyanavam mam prapadyate. After trying to figure it out yourself for many, many lifetimes, Krishna says, if you become sincere and then just take shelter of Krishna, Vyasadeva sarvamiti, he's my only help, and my only hope, and my only help. And you sincerely ask Krishna, please remove any anarthas. Anartha means the false values that I have within my heart. If we do that, we have that determination, then Krishna will help like anything to remove the anarthas from our heart. Plus, it makes life exciting because you never know what's going to happen next. And if I'm trying to control the outcome, then I'm going to be disappointed anyway, right? You ever try to control the outcome in your life? Did it work out perfectly? Not so much. It's good to have a plan, but you have to be a little flexible because it doesn't always work out. And then if you give up, in a way, you keep your plan but say, Krishna, I'm only depending on you for this to work in any way. So then, if we're thinking in terms of taking Krishna's guidance, his shelter, and we dive deeply within that lifestyle, then our life becomes a marvel at every moment. What does Krishna have in store for me next? And he may have some purificatory processes. Some of them may seem very humorous to us because, oh, Krishna, I see what you just did. I wasn't going to do that, but you led me into it because I made that sincere prayer. And this way, one's relationship with Krishna becomes more and more intimate. And then, as this verse states, Krishna then takes his place on the altar of the heart of the devotee. So in that regard, I wanted to just mention to you that I already did mention to you, but I'm going to refer to it directly. The cleansing of the Gunicha temple. And in this lengthy purport, extremely lengthy, which is at Madhya 12, 135, we get the instruction of how to be proactively engaged in cleansing the heart so that Krishna can be established there. We want to establish a deity in our home, but most importantly is we establish a deity in our heart. And at the end of this purport, Prabhupada says, when you've cleansed your heart, you've done the hard work of cleansing your heart, and then Krishna becomes manifest in your heart, then you can hold a festival. You hold a big festival, invite everybody over. You come over and we'll have some kitri, papra, a little mango pickle, and some lime and salt. And then your life is happy. Everyone can take to their full satisfaction. And afterwards, some rasamalai or sandesh. So this verse, is everyone still okay? Still in heavy listening mode? That's good. It's pretty good. Most people can't do that. Okay, this is CC Madhya 12, 135. E mato puradwar age pata jata shakala shodhila taha ke varnibe kato. So the translation is, outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. So this pastime comes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Those who go to Jagannath Puri and then develop a taste for that place, they'll never be the same. If you go to Jagannath Puri, and this is in some way the most mysterious and stimulating place for Krishna Bhakti in the whole universe. And the combination of rotating between Jagannath Puri, Mayapur, and Vrindavan, and throw in Calcutta for good measure because that's where Prabhupada departed. It's a mixture that will not just enliven the heart, but it grows a special affection for the whole process of devotional service by going to these places. And once you have it, then you have the greatest asset that you can possibly have. So it's worth the price of the ticket. And it's also worth telling your boss that, I'm out of here, sorry. I got to go. Whatever comes, because Jakvat Dharmam Charanam Bujam Harer Bhajana Pakfota Patetato Yati Yatra Kwa Vabadrama Buddha Muschakim Kovarta Apto Bhajatam Sudharmata. So here we are, the cleansing of the Gudicha temple, and they've cleansed it inside, and now outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Purport. In commenting on the cleansing of the Gudicha temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the world leader, was personally giving instructions on how one should receive Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within one's cleansed and pacified heart. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart, as prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka. Cheto Dharpana Marjanam. In this age, everyone's heart is especially unclean, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Hridyantakstohi badrani. Hridyantakstohi badrani. To wash away all dirty things accumulated within the heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The first result will be that the heart is cleansed, Cheto Dharpana Marjanam. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17 confirms this statement. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Rityantakstohe Badrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who? Which are? When? If a devotee at all wants to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord, Sri Krishna, Srinvatam Swakata Krishna. This is a simple process. Krishna himself will help cleanse the heart because he is already seated there. Krishna wants to continue living within the heart, and the Lord wants to give directions, but one has to keep his heart clean. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept the Godicha temple, the devotee therefore has to cleanse his heart just as the Lord cleansed the Godicha temple. In this way, one can be pacified and enriched in devotional service. If the heart is filled with straw, grains of sand, weeds, or dust, in other words, anyabilashita purna, they're full of these things, one cannot enthrone the Supreme Personality of Godhead there. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives brought about by fruitive work, speculative knowledge, the mystic yoga system, and so many other forms of so-called meditation. The heart must be cleansed without ulterior motive. As Srila Rupa Goswami says, anyabilashita shunyam jnana karmanyanavritam. In other words, there should not be any external motive. One should not attempt material upliftment, understanding the Supreme by speculative knowledge, fruitive activities, severe austerity and penance, and so on. All these activities are against the natural growth of spontaneous love of Godhead. As soon as these are present within the heart should be understood to be unclean and therefore unfit to serve as Krishna's sitting place. We cannot perceive the Lord's presence in our hearts unless our hearts are cleansed. A material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In modern language, this is called economic development. An inordinate desire for economic development is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. If one is overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed. As stated by Narottam Das Thakur, Shamshara Bishanali, Diva Nisha Hiadwale, Judaiti na Kainu Upai. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principle of devotional service. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation to higher planetary system, and even living happily within the material world. Modernized material benefits are like the dust of material contamination. When this dust is agitated by the whirlwind of fruitive activity, it overcomes the heart. Thus the mirror of the heart is covered with dust. There are many desires to perform auspicious and inauspicious activities, but people do not know how life after life they are keeping their hearts unclean. One who cannot give up the desire for fruitive activity is understood to be covered by the dust of material contamination. Karmis generally think that the interaction of fruitive activities can be counteracted by another karma or fruitive activity. This is certainly a mistaken conception. If one is deluded by such a conception, he is cheated by his own activity. Such activities have been compared to an elephant's bathing. An elephant may bathe very thoroughly, but as soon as it comes out of the river, it immediately takes some sand from the land and throws it all over its body. If one suffers due to his past fruitive activities, he cannot counteract his suffering by performing auspicious activities. The sufferings of human society cannot be counteracted by material plans. The only way suffering can be mitigated is by Krishna consciousness. When one takes to Krishna consciousness and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, beginning with chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, the cleansing of the heart begins. When the heart is actually cleansed, one can clearly see the Lord sitting there without any disturbance. In Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.68, the Lord confirms that he sits within the heart of the pure devotee. Sadhavo hridayam mahayam, sadhunam hridayam tuham. Impersonal speculation, monism, merging into the existence of the Supreme, speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and meditation are all compared to grains of sand. They simply cause irritation to the heart. No one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such activities, nor do we give the Lord a chance to sit on our hearts peacefully. Rather, the Lord is simply disturbed by them. Sometimes yogis and jnanis in the beginning take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra As a way to begin, there are various practices. But when they falsely think that they have attained release from the bondage of material existence, they give up chanting. They do not consider that the ultimate goal is the form of the Lord or the name of the Lord. Such unfortunate creatures are never favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they do not know what devotional service is. Lord Krishna describes them in the Bhagavad Gita in this way: Tanaham dushata kruran samsareshu naradamam shriprama jasrama shubhan asurasweva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. By his practical example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. One often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity by the contamination, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kutinati, fault-finding, and pratishtasha, the desire for name and fame and for high position. Jiva hingsa, envy of other living entities. Nishidachara, accepting things forbidden in the shastra. Kama, desire for material gain. And puja, hankering for popularity. The word kutinati means duplicity. As an example of pratishtasha, one may attempt to imitate Srila Haridas Thakur by living in a solitary place. One's real desire may be for name and fame. In other words, one thinks that fools will accept one to be as good as Haridas Thakur just because one lives in a solitary place. These are all material desires. A neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, namely desires for women and money. In this way, the heart is again filled with dirty things and becomes harder and harder, like that of a materialist. Gradually, one desires to become a reputed devotee or an avatar incarnation. The word jiva hingsa, envy of other living entities, actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Preaching work is described as paropakar, welfare activity for others. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaging in material activity. If one desires to make a compromise with the Mayavadis, he is also engaged in material activity. A devotee should never make compromises with non-devotees. By acting as a professional guru, mystic yogi, or miracle man, one may cheat and bluff the general public and gain fame as a wonderful mystic, but all this is considered to be dust, straw, and grains of sand within the heart. In addition, one should follow the regulative principles and not desire illicit sex, gambling, intoxicants, or meat. To give us practical instruments, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple twice. His second cleansing was more thorough. The idea was to throw away all the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. He cleansed the temple with firm conviction, as is evident from his using his own personal garments for cleansing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see personally that the temple was thoroughly cleansed to the standard of clean marble. Clean marble gives a cooling effect. Devotional service means attaining peace from all disturbances caused by material contamination. In other words, it is the process by which the mind is cooled. The mind can be peaceful and thoroughly cleansed when one no longer desires anything but devotional service. Even though all dirty things may be cleansed away, sometimes subtle desires remain in the mind for impersonalism, monism, success, and the four principles of religious activity, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. All these are like spots on clean cloth. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to cleanse all these away. By his practical activity, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed us how to cleanse our hearts. Once the heart is cleansed, we should invite Lord Sri Krishna to sit down, and we should observe the festival by distributing prasadam and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to teach every devotee by his personal behavior. Everyone who spreads the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts a similar responsibility. The Lord was personally chastising and praising individuals in the course of the cleansing, and those who are engaged as Acharyas must learn from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu how to train devotees by personal example. The Lord was very pleased with those who could cleanse the temple by taking out undesirable things accumulated within. This is called anartha nivritti. What's it called? Cleansing the heart of all unwanted things. Thus, the cleansing of the Gudicha Mandir was conducted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to let us know how the heart should be cleansed and soothed to receive Lord Sri Krishna and enable him to sit within the heart without disturbance. Om Tat Sat. So now we have a couple of minutes for some questions. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the wonderful class. I have two questions. The first one is in regard to how you described that Pavarga means to work hard, very hard in this material world, and we're all bound by our former student loans like in our previous lives. So I was wondering, as devotees, we are still like committed to material nature to work hard, but so I was just wondering if the mood is to work hard again in the material nature and just dedicate it to Krishna, or to reduce the intensity of work. So this is my first question.
Well, can I do one at a time?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Requires a higher IQ than I have to do two at once. So there's two paths, Pravritti Marg and Nivritti Marg. These are the two paths mentioned in the shastra. So Nivritti Marg means that you preempt the whole system of working hard in the material world because you've come to this conclusion that, why work so hard? I'll just serve Krishna and use this lifetime for him. This is rare because most people have some complexity in their life, some impetus to be fully engaged. And it's not that those who are in Nivritti Marg are not engaged. They're engaged, but they don't claim any, I should say they have no optimism whatsoever or no ambition for economic development, for instance. They'll just live simply, but actually such people, as an inside information, live a more opulent life than anybody. I've seen houses and dwellings of multi-millionaires, and so they got a basketball court in the backyard and a swimming pool and extra rooms. But after all, it's just a house when it's all said and done. So Nivritti Marg is a special track for those who will bypass the whole idea. And there is an ashrama for that. There's a brahmachari ashram. There's also a sannyas ashram. And then there's Pravritti Marg, which is the more common path that people take, which is they enter into the world in such a way that although they're working, and they may even be working hard, and they will definitely be paying student loans, then such people, although engaged in these activities, their ultimate goal is not to achieve a liberation by plumping the 401k. They understand that although I'm engaged in all these activities, my only solace is Krishna consciousness, and at the same time they engage whatever assets they have in Krishna service. So people who are responsible and have studied really hard, they've used their brains to achieve some academic excellence, and then they're engageable in so many ways, or they can move energy around. They become really valuable. Prabhupada used to consider it to be material life and economic development and material know-how is a zero. But if you put Krishna in front, then that zero becomes 10. And if you have 1600 on your SAT and then everything went upwards from there, you may have many zeros that you can offer in Krishna's service. As you continue to cultivate Krishna consciousness and you're also aware of the burden of material life, you're not considering it to be the all-in-all, you're engaging in Krishna's service, in which case the Sri Upanishad says, Vidyam ja vidyam chayas tad vedo vayam saha, avidya yamratum tirtva vidya yamratum ashnute. That such a person gets a great realization by the juxtaposition of these two parts of his or her life, and that is that I'm working hard, I'm attaining material assets, at the same time I'm Krishna conscious, and you can compare the two, and your ideal for life becomes even more enriched. I should say it in a different way. Your realization that Krishna is all I want becomes more and more enriched. And there are different phases of life that devotees who engage in this path go through, because naturally, after working really hard, there's a way in which you may not have to work so hard, just by nature of inheritance, even if you didn't work hard, and some accumulation and things like that. You may have some assets to engage in Krishna service, and there's a gradual system that is quite natural as one gets older to give permission to become more engaged, for instance, in just going to holy places, like Vanaprastha. A Vanaprastha ashram, man and woman, they're married, they've lived together, they've built things meaning maybe businesses, they've engaged with their families, and because they're still chanting Hare Krishna, because they're constantly chanting Hare Krishna, from that they get realizations. They've seen the passing of their parents and they realize, oh, that was a tent post and that's come out now. Now that the door is wide open for me. And they may also have seen the ways that material qualities are always counterproductive and so forth. So they come to this feeling in their heart that let me gradually dedicate everything to Krishna. And this in the Pravritti Marg gradually leads to the same realization that those who have the Nivritti Marg, and then they also have a successful life. Either way, Krishna consciousness works. It always works. You just have to apply it in whatever situation you're in now, and it doesn't matter what situation you're in. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Grihe tako bane tako, Sharahari bole dako, Sukhe duke bulo nako, Varane harinam korure, Namgai gora madhusware. He said, whatever situation you're in, you can be Pravritti Marg, Nivritti Marg. You can live in a fancy house with a bathroom that you could hold Kumbh Mela in, or you could live simple life. You don't have possessions. You don't even keep money. If you need a toothbrush, you ask somebody. It's like, can you get me a toothbrush? That's it. He said it either way. It has to fit the temperament of the person, a natural way of life. And so whatever course you're on, it'll work, flat out work. You just have to keep chanting Hare Krishna and everything will come to pass. At the same time, you have to be aware of the fact that when you're in the material energy, you can become reabsorbed easily. And of course, those who are on the Nivritti Marg, they can also start to think, only I know, nobody else knows, because I'm so renounced. And because of that, they become fallen. And even from that position of Nivritti Marg, then they also lose their way in devotional service because they start thinking like, I'm more renounced than anybody. And not only that, I'm humbler than anybody who ever lived. And I'm the way, the truth. And, Prabhupada said you can start thinking, not just a great devotee, I'm an incarnation. So you got to be careful in Nivriti Marg, Pravriti Marg. They all work, but you have to be careful on every path to do this, what's being said here. And what's the second question?
Thank you very much for that explanation. Clarifies a lot of things for me. My second question was, in regards to how you said Narad Muni inspired Vyasadeva to write the Bhagavatam, I was thinking, why, because Vyasadeva is already an incarnation of Krishna himself, why did he write the other works in directing people to like go to heaven? And following that, I was thinking, if like we do classes like at Stanford and places like that, we teach people without using the name Krishna, and we teach Bhagavad Gita without using the name. So is it like contradictory to what Prabhupada said? We have to present Bhagavad Gita as it is. So I was just confused, and could you please?
Sure. In an old house, have you ever seen a shower that has two handles, one's for hot, one's for cold? Actually, even if it has the one lever, you still have to find where it is. Like, if you go to somebody's house and you don't know where the thing is, where the temperature is that you like, you're like, that's colder, that's hotter, ow! So you're back and forth. Or if you got both hands on the nozzles, you're like, little here, a little there, this and that. There's some ashram I was in, it was opposite. And I was like, could you just, do it like everybody else, please? So there's this adjustment that goes on to try to find the right temperature. And in every age, there's some sense of how to present Krishna consciousness in a certain way. Look at Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the difference between Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then Prabhupada. And the milieu at that time, what was the zeitgeist that they were dealing with in order to and the backdrop, that is, in which they were presenting Krishna consciousness. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at his time, the British were fully in control of India still. And during the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was a time when there was upheaval. There's revolution, and coming into Srila Prabhupada's time, there's full-on Gandhiism and things like that. The mentality of people were different at various times. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teachings are a lot more universally, he has a universal presentation. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very laser-focused on overcoming certain types of philosophy that were prevalent at the time. And Srila Prabhupada, when he came to America, he was thinking about how to position himself in the West. He writes in a purport that men and women, they grow up together in this culture. In India, not so much. I mean, nowadays it's different. If you go to Bombay or Delhi, it's like Western. But even in the time of Prabhupada, it was a very different, there was a lot more separation between men and women. And here he comes as a sannyasi to America. So then he says, what should I do? And he preserved the sense of natural habitat for people. He had boys and girls, men and women together in the kirtans doing this and that and preaching. And he writes about that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that he's getting criticized by people from India, his godbrothers and so forth, saying like, what kind of sannyasi are you? In fact, Prabhupada was performing marriage ceremonies. That's unheard of. No sannyasi in the history of the Gaudiya tradition that we know of, said, okay, you guys get married, and here's how you do it, and Prabhupada did the whole ceremony. So he writes about it in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Dana Tapakriya, you're not to give these things up, just out of a sense of like, I'm renounced. They're all to be engaged. So Prabhupada says, so just like I'm a sannyasi, but I'm engaging people in the marriage ceremony. So how is that? It's because what Krishna says right here. Don't give up these processes that are good for everybody, but use them in relationship to helping people advance in Krishna consciousness. And more to your question, there's a way that, hopefully this is all to your question. So you'll notice, for instance, the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the verse that ends anumapakai, by realization. Prabhupada writes in his purport about the super soul within the heart, Paramatma we call, right? So he calls, what does he call the Paramatma there? Super spirit. He calls super spirit. And you'll notice as when Radhika Raman Prabhu was here, he pointed out various phrases that Prabhupada would use, like devotional service. It's very pointed towards, like, it's not just meditation, it's actually a cultivation. He was finding his way throughout all his writings to present in such a way that the audience he was teaching to could be receptive to it. So he would take various words and he would present them in a certain way. Now, there's always an adjustment that devotees take to. And as an example, we had this program we started, and we were doing it at Hansapriya's house for a long time. We called it Krishna Life. That was our name, by the way. And so, not mine, just saying we agreed upon it. It was our brand. So then we had people over. We put it out on meetup.com. And we didn't know who was coming. There were people who weren't that interested in Krishna consciousness, didn't know what it was. They were just interested in yoga, meditation, and so forth. At least that's what we thought. So we were very reticent about presenting directly and holding back on everything, sort of roundabout explanations. And then all of a sudden, the people who are coming, some of them especially, who were coming on a regular basis, they become more insistent, like, tell us the real thing. What are you holding back from us? In fact, two of them ended up finding the temple, saying, we know where your temple is. We got some beads now, you know. And so any person who's out in any field that is, you know, population teaching Krishna consciousness has to turn the knobs and find where's that sweet spot. Where is it? We can't ultimately shy away, because if you just bridge all the time and say this, that, then when are they actually going to cross the bridge and get to the other side, right? What we've noticed, like in Bhakti community, I noticed this the other night and I commented on it. Last Thursday night, every week we have a video. Kennedy backed me up on this. Every week we have a video about Krishna and Krishna conscious philosophy, right? So in the 32 weeks, and we don't know who's there. Some people can be brand new and usually are, and some people have been around for a few years. So then we have one about deity worship. And when we first put it up, right, we were thinking, like, what's going to happen now? So in the video, there's pictures of the deities in Mayapur being bathed with honey and yogurt and everything like that. And we're sitting there watching the video, watching everyone's faces, like, what are they going to do now? And we were so surprised that afterwards in the conversation, they were going, that was amazing. Like, I'd never seen that before. There was kind of an opening in their hearts for the fact that Krishna was a person. And we became joyful that, wow, you know, we can actually cross the bridge and get to the other side. Now, there are people that, you know, may cut it too sharply, and they'll come into an audience and, you know, they'll give such a straightforward presentation based on a principle, which is that straightforward or die. And then the audience becomes possibly put off. They don't come back the next time. Of course, they may also find the needle in the haystack by doing that. So it's called, what Prabhupada calls this, if you look at the first canto, 4th chapter, 1st verse in the purport. Am I supposed to end at 9:30 or 9:15? Really? Okay, I'm still in the game. 141, please, the purport. And here Prabhupada he answers your question, which I could have just done in the beginning. He says here, keep going, in a meeting of learned men, when there are congratulations or addresses for the speaker, the qualifications of the congratulator should be as follows. He must be a leader of the house and an elderly man. He must be vastly learned also. Sri Shaunaka Rishi had all these qualifications, and thus he stood up to congratulate Sri Suta Goswami when he expressed his desire to present Srimad Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from Shukadeva Goswami and also realized it personally. Here's your answer. Personal realization does not mean that one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous Acharya. He must have full confidence in the previous Acharya, and at the same time, he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for the particular circumstances in a suitable manner. In italics, Prabhupada did this when he was first writing up to the first few cantos. He put italicized sentences for emphasis. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it, yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called realization. So it's an art. It's kind of a science, but more of an art. So you have to know what you're doing. If you've been around a while, like if you're distributing books, right, and you go up to people, you fine-tune your presentation because a little bit too much that way, a little too much that way, pretty soon you're finding like, here's my zone where I can present and people really appreciate it, and it's still straightforward. And others who become more expert and they have more effulgence, they may just go straight forward, present, like Hare Krishna. This is Hare Krishna, and this is Hare Krishna, and that's Hare Krishna. And please hand over your whole life. Just come with us. And then they come home, and they're like, I came with him because you said come with me, and he's effulgent, so he comes. So it's an art. And some people, they're maestros, and they're like, wow, how did you do that? It's like, I don't know, I just did it. So that's the answer to that conundrum that's universal. Every preacher is always thinking like, is that too much, too little? You're in a room full of devotees. Amarendra Prabhu, I was just with him because I stayed at Adi Gadadhar's house. A whole bunch of really exalted devotees out there in Atlanta. It's an amazing place. And so I was staying at Adi Gadadhar's place, and Amarendra Prabhu and his wife Swastika, they live in the same house. And so he was telling me about, he was talking on a Janmashtami, and then some brand new guests came, and like he's an expert preacher, but then like what do? Temple president said, just preach to the devotees. Don't worry about any new people. But then the new people come in. It's like, yeah, but how do I present to them at the same time? That's hard. You have to. Your brain has to expand. It has to have more neurons within it to handle all that, to be able to present like that. That's the art of preaching, and it's what is so celebrated about somebody who can do that. So Prabhupada did it. He went everywhere, and he maintained this balance that, some people said, you're so conservative. It's like, oh, you don't know. I'm the most liberal person on the planet. It's the way I'm presenting. And Prabhupada knew what the essential parts were. For instance, with all these rituals and stuff, his weddings were about 5 minutes. You could read them in the database. It's 5 minutes. Exchange garlands, make a vow. Okay, you're married. Good luck. And as far as yagyas go, Satsarup Maharaj told about how he was performing one of these fire ceremonies for Prabhupada, and he was really stressed out, like, how should I say it? What should I do? Which version should I do? Because so many ideas everyone has about, no, don't do that. You need a cat in the basket over here. So all these things, and then he went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I'm really confused. What should I do? Should it be like this, like that? Everyone's telling me. Prabhupada said 2 words. He leaned over and he said, shortcut. Because that's not the important thing there. And he did it too at the installation of Krishna Balaram, 1975. He wrote in his purport afterwards, the main installation was my American and European disciples having kirtan. I didn't need all these brahmanas coming in here and throwing stuff all over the room. He said, but if I didn't have them come, nobody would have accepted that this was a bona fide temple, because you got to throw stuff over your shoulder and like hit somebody to make sure the whole place is purified, right? So not to belittle all the rituals. They have to be there, and one should follow what Krishna says in the shastra and the Panchratrik. But I'm just saying, one has to remember the essence, and that was Prabhupada's expertise, is keeping the main thing the main thing. So the main thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. And then when you preach, you can be effective as well as you have a well-considered presentation. Om Tat Sat. Thank you very much, everybody. We now have the honor of listening to a presentation by one of our young devotees who is studying Shastra and has come forward to make a public presentation. Vanchakalpadruvascha kripasindave vijapatitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nantakoti vaishnaviniki jai. Obama out.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. That was an excellent class, as usual, Prabhu, and excellent questions. I was listening all along. Very grateful for this August Assembly. So we'll go on to the next part, which is our presentation by youth. So Deepika will be talking about when to apologize and when not to. This is one of the topics they studied this year. So I'll just hand it over to her.
Hare Krishna. My name is Deepika, and today, and I'm 12 years old. And today, I'm going to be talking about Chapter 2 from the Bhagavad Viveka: when to apologize and when not to. First, I'm going to start off by telling a story about Parikshit Maharaj and the snake. There is a story where Parikshit Maharaj goes to the forest to hunt and is really thirsty, so he asks the sage Samika Rishi for some water. But the sage doesn't respond because he's in deep meditation. Because he doesn't respond, Parikshit Maharaj thinks that he doesn't respond on purpose and feels offended. He is so angry that he places a dead snake around Samika Rishi's neck and goes back to his palace. When he gets back to his palace, he thinks about what he has done and immediately regrets it. What Parikshit Maharaj did right there was a mistake, but it was not an intentional mistake. It was only due to his thirst and hunger after hunting in the forest. Shringi's curse. When Shringi, Samika Rishi's son, had found out that Parikshit Maharaj had put a dead snake around his father's neck, he got so angry that he cursed Parikshit. The curse was that Parikshit would die in 7 days by the bite of a snake bird. When Parikshit heard the news, he took it as good news. He accepted the curse and saw it as the Lord's arrangement. Honest people may accidentally offend someone, but they don't justify for their mistakes. Instead, they sincerely apologize for them. Dishonest people offend someone knowingly, and instead of admitting their offense, they try to cover them up or justify them. Next, I'm going to be telling you a story about King Citraketu and Lord Shiva. King Citraketu was a great devotee of Lord Sanskarsana and an expansion of Lord Krishna. King Citraketu attained the audience of Lord Sanskarsana in 7 days by chanting a mantra given to him by his guru, Narada Muni. Because he did that, he was awarded with an airplane which he could use to travel throughout the whole wide universe. First, he went to a place where Lord Shiva was giving an assembly to great sages while embracing his wife Parvati. When he got there, he said, "Even ordinary men embrace their wives only in private, so how can Lord Shiva embrace his wife Parvati in front of all of these sages?" Parvati's curse. After King Chitraketu said those words, Parvati got angry and cursed him. After she cursed him, King Chitraketu got down from his airplane and bowed before her, saying, "O mother, I do not plead to be excused or relieved from your curse, but please let whatever you think is wrong be pardoned." A true apology is not an apology done just as a formality. It is born out of sincere regret for one's misdeeds, out of empathy towards others' feelings. A devotee's attitude. Samika Rishi was not affected by Parikshit Maharaj's actions, but he was regretful to Shringi's behavior. On the other hand, Parvati was affected by King Chitraketu's actions. Both King Chitraketu and Parikshit Maharaj did not apologize to Samika Rishi and Parvati, but instead they honored their feelings. They showed detachment, maturity, and dependence on the Supreme Lord's will. They realized that nothing happens without the sanction of the Lord and fearlessly accepted the severe punishments of their small mistakes. Making mistakes is common, but honest people realize them, regret them, rectify them, and don't repeat them. They sincerely apologize for their mistakes, not as a ritual, but as a heartfelt gesture. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I really liked your talk. Is a theme that is so relevant to all of us. And I was wondering, when you were putting this together, what realizations you had about apologies, or did it resonate with any aspect of your life or anything that's happened with you, or give you insight into how to deal with situations? Like, did it affect you when you wrote this?
It did affect me because, I realized that, you just have to, put your heart to Krishna and, everything will be fine. And sometimes you have to, apologize to people, but, not all the time. But, yeah.
I like the point in your presentation that when you're sincere, that you'll regret what you did and also not repeat the mistake. Some really good points. Thank you so much.
Anyone has questions or comments, realizations?
Thank you so much for the nice presentation, and it's very helpful for all of us also. So my question was, if someone apologizes to us, how do we know whether it's genuine or not genuine, and how should we respond?
If they apologize, then you should acknowledge that they apologize to you, and if they feel really sorry, then they would you can see in their tone of voice or something like that.
Thank you for the very nice presentation, filled with good examples from Bhagavatam. As Maharaj said, I also like the point about sincere apology should be based on regret. And I also like the point about empathy towards what others are feeling. That was and then not repeat it, rectify and not repeat. So the empathy part I really liked. We will be able to regret more when we can actually put ourselves in the other shoes. So many misunderstandings can actually be avoided. So I really like those points. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I guess looks like that's it. So thank you so much. Deepika is only 12, so we're very grateful, Deepika. That was an excellent presentation. Yeah, so we will continue this series of the Kaishara students presenting every week. And today we also actually, later on at around 10, we will start our Sunday school annual day presentations, performance, and gratitude to the entire community. Thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to the Prabhu, for the next program. What is the next program? Oh yes. We have a ceremony, a very auspicious ceremony for Ramani, and she's going to write her first letters, and it's going to be conducted by His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu. So to prepare for that, I kindly request you all to take the seats, clear up the space, just a little, because we want to keep the seats for the program at 10, and you can all face that way too. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I think so. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, Om Madhavo Madhavo Vachi Madhavo Madhavo Hridi Smaranti Sarvak Sarve Sarvkareshu Madhavam. Om Bhai Krishna Sakchirandanas Sarveshwareshwar Dharatu. Om Swasino Govinda Swasino Chutananto Swasino Vasiro Devo Vishnu Dharatu. Swasino Narayana Naro Vai Swasinat Padmarava Purushottam Dharatu. Swasino Vishvakshvena Vishveswaraha Swasino Rishikesho Harer Dharatu. Swasino Vainatayu Harihi Swasino Jana Satu Hanur Bhagavatu Dharatu. Karotu Swasni Me Krishna Sarvalokeshvareshvara Karshnadaya Sakurvantu Swasni Me Lukapanavaha Matsamo Nasti Papa Manaparadi Chakashtana Parihare Pilajja Me Kimbruve Purushottama Yuvatinam Yata Yuni Yunam Cha Yuvata Yata Mano Biramate Tadvan Manome Ramatam Tvayi Bhumau Skalita Paranam Bhumireva Valambanam Tvajata Paranam Tvameva Sharanam Prabho Govinda Balavi Radhe Prate Tomaham Sada Tvariyam Iti Janatu Govindo Mam Tvayasaha Radhe Vrindavanadi She Karuna Mritavahani Kripaya Nijapadabja Tasam Mayam Pratiyatam Hantaya Madra Balaharidasavaryo Yadrama Krishna Charanasparasha Pramodaha Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayostayo Yat Paniya Suyavasa Kandana Kandamulai Hari Now, we have this special ceremony. Let's get one more seat for Ramani. Actually, I can move over. You just will switch places.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You change places with me. So Ramani, what we're doing here is your first letters, both on this chalkboard in case you decide to take Mona Vrat at any time. And also on this beautiful pad, Maruti, and pencil. This is what you'll be taking your SATs with. Number 2 pencil. So we're going to give you the chalk. This is your writing instrument. And take that. Right here. We'll just help you out. Krishna, Krishna. Very good. Now for your SATs. This will guarantee 1,600. She's fired up now. We're okay. She's doing good. Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
She's good. 1,600 SAT, no problem. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this writing process is a great superpower of a human being. Some primates can do some sign language, but they don't have syntax, and grammar is lacking. Human brain is especially empowered for writing, but what's it for? This is mentioned in the beginning of Genesis, in one of the books of what's called the Bible, and is known as Logos. There's an organized system in the universe, and it can be described in organized speech, which means with grammar and syntax. And the purpose of this is to bring us to understand the organizer of the universe, who has put it into play, and even more importantly, what is the intention of that person. And if we can align ourselves with that, then our lives become successful. So one of the ways in which we most readily learn about Krishna is through the written word. It's been passed down, especially in this age, because people are very busy. They don't have time to spend 12 years in Gurukula and learn all these mantras by heart. So in writing, one can imbibe all the teachings of the spiritual world. In fact, I met Srila Prabhupada in 1973, and he told myself and a good friend of mine at that time, said you should preoccupy yourself with reading the books that I've written, because you can come to know everything by this study. And in the prayers written by Rupa Goswami about the holy name, he calls the holy name Paramaksharakrite. He said it's the supreme combination of syllables, the holy name. So by reading, and writing is speech which is abstracted. It's just an abstraction of speech. It's transferred into symbols so that we can speak it again and again. We can come to understand Krishna through the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, all the great literatures. Many devotees learn to read and write by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, like our Radhika Raman Prabhu has learned how to speak and read the English language from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Ramani, on this special day of your first letters, we make this prayer. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Shringadev, if you so desire, please empower our dear Ramani, that she'll always be absorbed in transcendental literatures, and may she use her power of reading, speaking, and writing to glorify Uttama Shloka, who is glorified with the choicest prayers. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone who agrees with this prayer in whole or in part, please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ramani, I hereby declare
Hare
your first letter ceremony to be a complete success, and may all blessings and benedictions come upon you in this lifetime. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Vanchakalpadurusha Kripasindabe Vichapatitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama